go ahead and get started with our opening prayers. Om Sahnavatu, Vakratunda Mahakaya, Saraswati Namastubhyam, and Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu. And then we will go in, again, repeat verse number 1 of Sadhana Panchakam. We'll do lead and repeat style once, and then we'll chant that verse together, just so we get more practice in. So ready? Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So now for our first verse. Vedo nityam adhiyatam Vedo nityam adhiyatam Tadudidam karma svanushtiyatam Anushtiyatam Tene shasya vidhiyatam apachitihi Tene shasya vidhiyatam apachitihi Kamye matistyajyatam Kamye matistyajyatam Papogaf paridhuyatam bhavasukhe Papogaf paridhuyatam bhavasukhe Dosho nusandhiyatam Dosho nusandhiyatam Atmecha vyavasiyatam nijagrahat Atmecha vyavasiyatam nijagrahat Turnam vinirgamyatam Turnam vinirgamyatam. So now chant this together. Vedo nityam adhiyatam tadudidam karma svanushtiyatam Tene shasya vidhiyatam apachitihi Kamye matistyajyatam Papogaf paridhuyatam bhavasukhe Dosho nusandhiyatam Atmecha vyavasiyatam nijagrahat Turnam vinirgamyatam. Yeah, even that last meter. So we have seen up until now, Vedo nityam adhiyatam. May I study the Shastras very well so that they may become my guide for every moment of living. Then tadudidam karma svanushtiyatam. Based on my thorough understanding of the Shastras, may it not just become an intellectual knowledge, may I actually follow those karmas that are prescribed perfectly. May that be my standard, perfection and nothing less. And we had seen when it comes to karma itself that there are the do's and the don'ts, and do's and don'ts are not commandments. They are well thought out processes of what are the consequences for each choice that I make. Those that fall under the category of leading to disintegration and destruction for the individual and the society, those are things that are put under the category of nishiddha. May I not do them. And then those that will help integrate myself, help my growth, help my evolution, along with upholding society around me because I am a part and parcel of it, those that help propagate that, those are things I should do. And the things I should do are covered in 4 categories again. And those 4 categories I split in 2 and 2. The first 2 are those that I must do regardless of who I am. Meaning that I have no choice Those duties are nitya karma and naimittika karma. And together they're called niyata karma. And they're easy to remember because they all start with N. These are things I have to do. For the body, mind, and intellect, there are certain prescriptions given to maintain all three levels. Depending on the ashrama that I am, there's a set of duties I have to do on a daily basis because I'm part of that ashrama. And based on the temperament of my mind, based on the varna that I belong to, that also brings me a list of things to perform. Non-negotiables, basically. Then the other two is, depending on certain circumstances, I can pick them up, but if the circumstances does not require it, I don't need to do it. That's why they're put in the other two. And what are the other two? Kama and prayaschitta. Kama is, although desirelessness is the goal to achieve in sadhana, even as we saw in today's verse in Bhagavad Gita, that by performing karma yoga well, I will reach the state of jnana yoga, and that state itself is realizing that the self is the only reality. Everything else is just the senses playing among the sense objects. That desirelessness and non-attachment to this BMI is the state to achieve. But Shastras understand that's the end goal. There's going to be a lot of problems up until that point. There's going to be a lot of desires we have to tackle and manage. How do we do that? Therefore, kamya karmas are prescribed. May I evaluate the type of kama I have? What will be destructive? That goes under nishiddha karmas, things I shouldn't do. Those that are not that extreme, those that are well-intended, can help me grow, let me fulfill it in such a way that I'm able to grow out of it, not get consumed by it. So that would be kamya karma, where I take the kamas I have, make sure I fulfill it through the terms of dharma, so that may I grow and mature out of those and not be bound by those kamas. So there's a knack in how to manage those desires anyways. Then along the way, duties I should do, kamya karmas that should be done in a certain way, I may make mistakes along the way. And puja vidhi is a very nice example. No matter what puja I perform, there's always kshama prarthana at the end. Kayena vacha manasendriyerva. I may have done mistakes not only in my actions, but in my speech and in my thoughts. How many of us actually sit down and think and apologize for the thoughts I have? Then I'd constantly be chanting this as a mantra at that point. So there are mistakes that I can do in terms of things I do that I shouldn't have done, things that I didn't do that I should have done. Both count. I don't know. Those aren't valid excuses for this. If I made such a mistake, then may I take up certain karmas, certain actions, so that I may become purified from that particular action. I had some extra thoughts on this from last week, because this is where we left off last time when it comes to prayaschitta. And we had seen that Manusmriti and a lot of the other dharma shastras will outline specific prayaschitta karmas based on the mistakes I've made, and it is very elaborate. Even Puja Guruji, Swami Tejomayananda Ji, in his videos on Dharma Shastra itself, he said, if you picked up those shastras and tried to read, it will be very frightening because of the extent that it takes to purify from that mistake. That depth is given. But there needs to be a bit of mental preparation in order to tackle that arena. So Puja Gurudev simplifies it and tells us, remember 3 principles behind any prayaschitta karma, any atonement or atonement, that's a good word, I'll stick with that one. It is that first, may I truly regret what I've done. If that sincerity of remorse is not there, nothing I do after that, even if mechanically, externally, it was followed perfectly, if that true remorse and regret is not there, true purification and growth out of that mistake will not happen. So first step is actual regret, sincere remorse, and a genuineness in wanting to grow out of it. That has to be first. Then after that, when that sincerity is there, I should take up some sort of tapas as a way of reminding myself disciplining myself, correcting myself, saying, please never do this again. Remember this. Remember what happened. This is my atonement to myself. So we had seen last time that there were a couple different examples that either the remorse itself can be a tapa, a burning on the inside, that it will remind me that I will never do this again. I can take up vratas or actual tapas, that I will do fasting in dedication of remorse that I have for this. Because when we fast, there are certain attachments, right? We live comfortably saying, I can have whatever I want. And it's that sense of loss of control over the mind, and it is that same loss of control that made me make that mistake. So let me remind myself to have better control over myself. Let me take a vrata and test myself. So fasting can be a form of that. Or tirtha yatras. And I think we sat on this concept a little bit, that whenever there is a pradakshina, a circumambulation of that tirtha place, Kailash doing the circumambulation of Manasarovar, there are many that do pada namaskara, that every step I take, I remind myself physically that I'm surrendering every aspect of my personality to that ideal, to that Bhagwan that I believe in. Therefore, it takes tapas to surrender. Let me remind myself of that when I perform such a tapas on my yatra. This is not a vacation. This is a sincere inward look at the weaknesses I have, and may I overcome those weaknesses. Other ones are Ganga Snanam. Ganga Snanam, meaning that I remember where Ganga Devi came from, what she represents. She is that knowledge, she is that purification, she is the guidance of the spirituality that is being given in our Sanatana Dharma. Devi, you are like my mother. I will surrender myself to you. May you wash over me with your knowledge so that I may come out better, stronger, more purified, and as a way of cleansing myself mentally from what I have done. So again, the bhava is the same behind all of these examples. In what form I pick up is conducive to what I need. So based on the prayaschitta, I can take up a specific karma, but the bhava behind, I truly regret. I will keep myself accountable with tapas that I choose to take up on my own. And finally, that last principle to remember is, may I never repeat this mistake ever again. That is an achievement in perfection, even in those circumstances. This is the principle to hold on to. Those are specific karmas that can be done, but another recommendation is given when it comes to prayaschitta. Who knows what all mistakes we've done? I can't even remember the mistakes I've made last week, let alone when I was young, and let alone all the previous lifetimes that I may have accrued. Who knows what I've done? I wouldn't even know what prayaschitta karma to choose that would match the specific action, and how many of them have I done? It seems overwhelming. How do I become pure of all of this? Papo gaf pari dhuyatam. This matches that line in Sadhana Panchakam. Dhuyatam. May I blow away all of the papas that I have done. How many of them are there? How strong does this gust need to be? So a more generalized prayaschitta karma is recommended. And it is said, remembering the name of Bhagwan will cover our foundations. And we may be skeptical. What do you mean just remembering Bhagwan? Is that really enough? It seems so simple. Is it really that effective? But when we look at invoking Bhagwan, there's quite a lot of principles that go into how it influences our mind. Before I get into that, we have to remember, there was another place that I made a connection on remembering the name of Bhagwan is the most effective way to evolve in today's day and age. I encountered this somewhere in Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam has a big section on describing what is the nature of Kali Yuga, the age that we're in today. And it looked at how the mind and the mental capacity of the human being was so much greater in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and it has come to a complete decline by the time we get to Kali Yuga. Right now, we haven't even crossed the worst part of Kali Yuga. We're in the best years of Kali Yuga right now. I think we're about 5,100 some odd years into Kali Yuga right now. And each yuga, based on that mental temperament, says this particular style of sadhana matches this capacity. So Jnana Yoga, that ritualism, that extreme tapas, those were the capacities that Satya Yuga could handle, those that were in Satya Yuga. Very hard to do, and very few would become realized through those means. Because our mind has declined so much in Kali Yuga, the one recommendation is bhakti and nama smaran, or nama japa is the best way to gain moksha in Kali Yuga. So again, remembrance of Ram Nama becomes the key sadhana in Kali Yuga. And there may be a few that get realized in Satya Yuga, but the most get realized in this age. What a contradiction, is it not? But it's because of that despair, that decline of both internal environments and external environments really invoke that seeking of that higher power. Do we not remember Bhagwan only when we get into trouble? It's harder to remember Bhagwan when we're successful. We're more easy to take credit for what happened than to give credit when we're happy. But when things go bad, Bhagwan, why? So in the same way, in a macrocosmic level then, when things are on the decline, it's easier to remember Bhagwan. Therefore, Nama Smarana is given. And now we'll come to, why is japa such an effective method of prayaschitta karma? If we look at the principle of repetition of name itself, the practice is you take the name and you repeat it over and over again. Now, what does a name do? Even from a day-to-day standpoint, if I call your name, do you not respond? Like, and this was a really good experience in the last couple, 4 weeks now, because my name has been changed, and now I have to respond to a different name now. So it's a really interesting study at that point to see the connection between my identity and my name. And remembering that someone called me, recognizing that somebody called me by the wrong name, correcting them, or they'll remember faster than I do. So there's a very strong correlation between the name and what is being invoked. Very strong, powerful link that we may not pay attention to. And so whenever we name our children, are we not diligent in picking that name? Because there's also a meaning that holds behind it. If I named my child Gadha and called him that for the rest of his life, what would that do to the child's psyche, especially when they actually learn what the meaning of that word is? There's an identity that gets formed because of that repetition of name. So instead, we take Bhagwan's name and say, may that become that forefront. If that name gets repeated so much that I become identified with it, may that name be Bhagwan's name. And let's not be swept away by modern aesthetics and trying to find a name that sounds good, because we will end up truncating certain syllables in Sanskritam where it changes the entire meaning altogether. And so like for example, I just realized this, there's a common name, Madhusudan. Madhusudan. I have an uncle that's also named that way. And as a shortcut, what do we say? Madhu. What does Madhusudan mean? Bhagwan Krishna, who is the... Oh, okay. So we have a fire drill today. This is our fire drill testing. So please don't panic. So everyone slowly keep your stuff here. Please get up and make your way to the back. The teachers will be handling the exit of the children.